I'm lifting with a more intuitive tempo. It's still controlled, it's still slow, but I'm using the rep range for that specific exercise that I get the best mind-muscle connection, the best SFR for that exercise, not even necessarily that body part. Different body parts, like there might be some bicep exercises that I do really good with 20 reps, but then the next bicep exercise, I can go heavier and do only 10 reps.
Warning!
You're watching Dr. Todd Lee TV, where theoretically you could learn a bunch of cool shit.
Well, hello there, everyone. Hello, 'tis I, Dr. Todd Lee, and I'm going to present my recent training for delts and arms. I start with triceps because they're the most important body part for me, not necessarily for you, but for me, I start with the weakest body part first, or the least developed body part first. So triceps are priority one, then middle delts, then rear delts, then bicep. Now, I just got a new iPhone, and so I'm playing around with it. I shot it for the gram, but I had Josiah, my editor, slap these videos together to make one video so that I could narrate it for you. So the content on YouTube will be a duplicate of the stuff I put on Instagram. So right here, what we've got is an overhead Vulken extension. So right now, what you've got, I'm going to pause this right now. Right here, hopefully you can see my cursor. You'll see that the line of force, we've got at the origin, we've got a stretch at the long head of the tricep. Then we've got right here a full stretch at the insertion. So the origin stretched and the insertion stretch of the long head of the tricep. The two other heads, the median head and the lateral head, attached to the humerus. So as long as the elbow is completely flexed by firing the bicep, you're going to stretch those two heads. In order to stretch the long head, you have to stretch it at both joints, the shoulder joint and the elbow joint. Now, if you look at the line of force, I don't know how to draw on this, but one day I'll be technically advanced enough to where I can draw on this for you. Ideally, the line of force should be like this to get a perfect stretch. And I play around with the form a little bit. At one point, one of these reps, I'm going to drive my elbow out this way to try to get the line of force just right. But you don't have to have a complete 90-degree angle right here at the radius and ulna to get a good enough stretch. Let's see if I can do this just right. Nope. That was a little bit better. That's closer to a 90. So about 20% through the range of motion is when I hit the maximum force. And I'm also pulling apart at the top at first, but eventually I'm going to point my elbows more forward, and then I'm going to drive it straight up. The reason why I didn't do that at the beginning of the set is it was kind of hurting my shoulder joint. So I opened up my shoulders by rotating my humerus out. So like instead of being like this, I moved it out like this and pulled it apart because it was easier on my shoulders. Then as I started getting warmer in the joints, I could do it correctly. All right, let's get back to the fun. So you'll see I pull it apart for a while, and that's gonna, you can see I'm rotating the humerus. I'm internally rotating the humerus to get a little bit more extension. And you won't get as much external extension if you don't internally rotate at the top. Eventually, I'm gonna, now right around here, I'm gonna start pushing them closer together. I'm not getting full extension, but I'm still getting the full stretch. And remember, this is a stretch move. I don't know why it's running laggy, but it runs better on Instagram. So right here, I'm really struggling. I think that was the right amount of reps. Hold on, let me count the reps. Let me pause this here. So on my own time, I just paused it so you didn't have to waste your time. I counted 22 or 23 reps. Now I rounded back a little bit so we could watch the difference between faster, smoother reps, and when the velocity starts to decrease. When the velocity is decreasing is when mechanical tension is its highest. This is theoretically where your effective reps are. And you're going to say, Todd, well, why are you doing 23 reps if only the last 5, 6, 8 reps are effective reps? And the answer is, if I was to go super fucking heavy right out of the gate, I'm going to feel all shoulders and joints. And this tendon right here, I'm going to feel something deep in my shoulder. What I ain't going to feel is my tricep. So on the subsequent sets, I don't get as many reps. But the point I'm trying to make is, although maybe a younger person or a less strong person can do 8 reps and they're perfect 8 reps and every rep's an effective rep, for someone with my strength level and age, I have to use higher reps. I'm probably doing more weight for 23 reps than a younger man might get 8 reps with. That's where a lot of people are confused. It's just that if I was to do the whole stack for 6 or 8 reps, I don't know that they would look this good, and I don't know that my triceps would be doing the work and not other.
Greetings, Earthlings! Like, subscribe, and share this video. Share with a friend. Share with enemies. Share with people who think they know everything. I am a medical doctor, and I could be your doctor. Click the link in the description box. I can order you blood work. I can read the blood work. I can treat any illnesses. Basically, it's like an HRT clinic that's a one-man army. Also, I do coaching. Dr. Karina Dotson and I have a coaching business called Apex Coaching. So if you sign up with me, you get coaching, which is nutrition, programming, competition prep, or lifestyle coaching, as well as all the medical stuff. So you have 2 doctors in one business. It's going to be contest prep, the nutritionist, the programming person, and the doctor all in one. You can't beat it. It's integrated. It works the best that way. You'll love it. Make sure to do it. Click the link in the description box.
So here we go. That one's a pretty fast rep. That one's a little bit slower. That one's a lot slower. Now I go in for a deep stretch. I'm pushing them together at the top, keeping those elbows in close, not getting a full extension, but I'm still getting good enough of a rep. And then I was done. And you notice that last one was a lot shittier than the previous couple reps. So once you get like one solidly shitty rep that you're not getting maximum contraction and it's slow and you've got nervous system inconsistency, you've got like the, then maybe that's time to put that set away, rest, and do another set. This is the reps in reserve model. It's like, were these beyond failure? 3 reps were beyond failure, or were they 2 reps in reserve? It depends on how you define a rep. If the rep quality starts to decrease, do you just abort the set? Maybe with you and your skill level, all of your effective reps are going to look suboptimal relative to your easier reps. So a lot of this is a finesse thing. That's why the scientists, they're not very big, because most of this, the scientific training that I learned, and I relearned how to lift between 2021 and 2023. In a period in 2022, when I went back to lifting my old way, I got bigger and stronger. And then I went to lifting more technical and I got small again. And then it's just this month or this off season, I'm lifting with a more intuitive tempo. It's still controlled, it's still slow, but I'm using the rep range for that specific exercise that I get the best mind muscle connection, the best SFR for that exercise, not even necessarily that body part, different body parts. Like there might be some bicep exercises that I do really good with 20 reps, but then the next bicep exercise, I can go heavier and do only 10 reps. In this case, I can't, this was a weight increase. I went up 2.5 pounds from the previous week. I believe this was 57 pounds. And instead of I got 55 for 18 the previous week, I got 57.5 for 23 this week. So on paper, it shouldn't have been too light, but it was. So now I did 3 sets of every exercise today. However, I'm only showing you 1 set pretty much of each exercise. Some of them I'm going to show you 2 sets because I want you to see different angles. But on this was the best angle. I shot at 3 different angles. The other angles didn't look as good. This was the best set at the best angle, so I just gave you 1 set of it. But I did 3 of these sets. Next exercise. Now, this is one of my favorites. Now, although it may not look like it, but my arm is about as far back as it needs to be to get maximum contraction of the long head. So there, the humerus is going back. I can see my long head peeking out right there. This is my lateral head. My medial head is deep to these. You see it poking out here, and my long head is back here. I can see the long head, right? So the long head is getting engaged. People will tell you that overhead is how you train your long head. I personally do not feel the long head with overhead reps as good as I do with this, with the arm in the long head in the fully contracted position. I feel a deep stretch on the long head when I'm doing the stretch portion, but when I lock those overheads I just did on the lockout at the top, I'm feeling no long head. On this, I feel no stretch in the long head at the top of the rep, but right here at the apex of the rep or the zenith of the rep, I've got maximum contraction in my long head. Now, this is the stretch position of this rep. I feel no stretch in the long head because the long head's not stretched at its origin, only at its insertion. However, the other two heads, the median and the lateral head, or medial and the lateral head, they are fully stretched, and I do feel them in this position. I'm actually flexing my bicep to maximally stretch this elbow. I'm firing my bicep to maximally flex the elbow to maximally stretch the triceps, those specific heads, the median head and the lateral head. Now, this is a triset. I'm doing it with the arm as far back as I can get it comfortably. You know, if you really get your arm really far back there, it's all rear delts and you lose the long head. So this is and also my hand, if you looked at this arm, it's angled out a little bit. I've got some internal rotation going, and even at the apex of the rep, I've got internal rotation. That's how I fire my long head best. If I externally rotated the humerus, I may not feel as much long head. And that's part of why I'm gripping the Vulkens the way I am and not using wrist cuffs. I find that at the bottom, the zenith in this case, I'm not actually getting there anymore. I'm depleted. I can't get a full contraction, but my hand will rotate even more out, and I'll go more prone at the bottom to really get the long head. Now, the next two halves of this set is going to be with the other grip. I'm going to do a pull apart with a little less long head focus, more medial and lateral head focus. And at the end, I'm going to be push away, which basically recruits a lot of chest because the triceps are pretty much spent at that part. It's kind of the equivalent of dropping and doing diamond push-ups. A lot of people will do diamond push-ups at the end of a tricep set because it'll recruit so much chest that it'll end up giving you a few extra reps when there's not much left in the triceps. So now I'm failing. Those are 2 shit reps. I'm using some body English, and I'm like, fuck it. Now, so is that 3 reps beyond failure? You know, who knows? That's where it's a little confusing as to what exactly failure is. So now I'm seeing my chest is engaging and my hands are going together. And now I'm just going to push it away. So it's kind of the first mechanical drop set blend into the second mechanical drop set. And why it's chopping, I don't understand. Maybe this computer is not strong enough to handle it. So now I'm going into the third exercise. This is another triset. This is a skull crusher, JM press, close grip bench. So I'm going to the top of the forehead. Now I'm going to the lower part of the forehead, trying out my muscle connection with my long head, going back to the top of the forehead. And then pretty soon I'm going to switch to the top of the skull. And I find that right here, this is where I feel my long head the best in the stretch. I'm still getting good stretch. And if you notice here, the line of force is with gravity because it's free weights. And we've got a stretch right here with the long head at the origin. We've got almost a full stretch at the insertion of the long head, but we have maximal force through here. And this got the long head better than when I had my humerus a little bit more forward, because although I would get more stretch at the insertion because the elbow was more flexed, the origin wasn't as stretched, so I wasn't feeling as much stretch on the long head. I did, of course, 3 sets of the previous and 3 sets of this. Now I'm switching to the jam press. I'm getting a good long head connection by having my elbows forward. Now I'm moving my elbows a little bit further out, which because they were just exhausted. And so now I'm getting more chest to help out with the lateral and medial head. Now I'm switching to just a normal close grip. And I'm trying to get my elbows forward to get as much long head as possible, and it's just given up on me. So I did a couple partials, lengthened partials to be specific. So as you can see, there isn't really a clear point at which you hit 0 reps in reserve. It's one muscle goes to failure and other muscles jump in because most of these are incidentally compound lifts. There's 3 heads of the tricep. So when the long head fails, I can do some body English to recruit the other heads more and bring in anterior delts or maybe pecs. All right. Now we're going to delts. This one's a lot more cut and dry. I got this from 3 angles. I did 5 sets, but I only liked 3 of them. This is showing you different angles. Notice I'm leaning into the pad. I'm driving my hand down and out as if I'm trying to scrape the floor with my fingertips and then pointing at the wall. You see very little trap involvement because my arm is not in line with the traps. It's out a little bit in front of me. And one thing you're not seeing is I'm doing internal rotation throughout the range of motion. It's not a fixed amount of internal rotation. It's starting neutral and then turning about 10, 15 degrees internally rotate at the top to keep the middle delt, not the front delt, the primary mover. This is from the other side, showing you the other delt. Maybe you can see a little bit of my internal rotation of the humerus. At the top, it's about 15. Like I'm pouring out the pitcher of water, as Arnold would say. This takes tension off the middle delt and puts it on the lateral delt. Although if you did that through the whole range of motion, it might screw up your supraspinatus tendon. Again, I'm leaning into the pad and I'm not recruiting. And that was clearly beyond failure. And then I did a rest pause to get one more good rep. And then I got a partial. So that was 2 reps beyond failure for sure. Okay, and so this is my favorite view because you can really see what's going on. A little bit of pause at the top, a nice pause and a reset at the bottom. They're controlled reps. I might be what seems like I'm going a little fast, but I have complete control. If someone said red light, I could stop on a dime in the mid rep on the eccentric. I got a fail there. Now I'm fucking around with this idea of doing the crossover with the rear delts. And from this, I concluded that I don't like doing 2 arms at a time. I revert to what I used to do, which was 1 arm at a time. Because for whatever reason, I'm doing 10 pounds and getting like 15 to 10 reps. And then when I do 1 arm at a time, I can do 20 pounds for. Now I got a better stretch when I cross those arms over. I'm getting a better stretch in the rear delt. Because I'm using both arms, there's a lot of balance involved and I can't brace. Bracing is critical. That's why I was sitting for the first exercise. That's why I was laying down for the third. And that's why I used the pad on the machine lateral. Now this is how I do the 1 arm at a time. Notice I'm using my left arm to brace. And I'm able to get a much better contraction through and range of motion. Now I'm trying to protract my scapula on the X stretch phase, and then I'm letting my back get involved and help out. As long as I'm primarily feeling it with my rear delt, I don't care. Now, if I did this first, it would deplete my tricep, my long head, and I'd be much weaker on my tricep movements. That's why I do triceps first before delts, is because this exercise kills my long head and my tricep. And since the name of the game for this block, for this off season, is going to be lats, long heads, middle delts, and quad sweep, you can see a lot of backs getting involved because that rear delt's fucked. This might be why I'm so much better at this than I am with the 2 arms at a time, is the middle back is able to jump in and help out so much. And I'm wearing a belt under my shirt. A lot of you might notice I look like I've got a gut. It's because I've got a belt on. And that's so I can keep my waist contracted the whole time. Yes, I'm only using 10 pounds. It's because I wanted to compare how many reps I got with the 2-arm to the 1-arm. So if you got 10 reps on the second set with 2 arms and you're getting 20 reps with a third set on 1 arm, clearly your output is way better with 1 arm than with 2 arms. So I'm just going to go back to doing 1 arm. Fuck the 2-arm. You'll notice that the angle is at a downward trajectory rather than just straight across my body, because that's where the tricep fibers lie. And that's my favorite brace position right there. I was just experimenting with different hand placements, but that's the best right there. All right, now we're on to biceps. Doing progressive resistance. So you'll notice that I've got some body English going because this is my weaker side. That I have more control on my right side because it's stronger, but I'm trying to match my right side performance with my left side. And in so doing, my reps look a little sloppier. There's more shoulder mobility. It looks like there's less elbow extension and flexion. I also am feeling extreme pain in my forearm when I do these because it's just my left side hurts like a bitch on the left forearm. So a lot of that's defensively happening at the spinal cord, controlling how that arm operates. It's not free will. You notice on the right side, my arm is handling it much better. I look almost bored. There is a little too much pivoting going on in my shoulder, but it's because I'm pretty much using the pad as a brace near the fulcrum, the elbow. And these are clearly partial reps, but I still record them as regular. That one I obviously didn't record as a regular rep. There we go. So this is the second set. So my arm's a little bit loosened up. So it's a little less defensively fighting against the pain in my forearm. I'm leaning over a little bit more to be able to brace better. And I did not get nearly as many reps with the left arm as the right arm. Now this is a Dr. Israel favorite. These are called Jerry curls because Jared Feather invented them. Other people will take credit. That's fine. But one of the benefits of being famous is that you get to claim credit for shit, and other people can, even though they came up with it first, it looks like they're just copying you. So I'm going to pause this for a second. I picked this view for a reason. There. You notice the shadow lets us know how close these dumbbells are to the floor. I'm getting maximum stretch at the shoulder joint of the bicep. I believe the long head crosses both joints. The short head only crosses the elbow joint. So clearly we're getting a full stretch at the extension of the elbow, at the insertion of the bicep tendon. Whereas the origin of the bicep tendon is over here on the acromion and the humerus, or they're both the acromion or something like that. For some reason, I've seen charts where the short head attaches to the humerus and the long head attaches to the acromion. And I've seen other charts where both have some type of attachment that are not on the humerus, one on the acromion and one somewhere else. I can't recall off the top of my head, but it doesn't really matter for training. For training purposes, you get that other movement was a stretch based off of the tension at the stretch position, but it wasn't a stretch at the origin. This is a stretch at the origin and at the insertion, and we have at least a 135-degree angle right here going. So at least we're getting a good amount of tension at the bottom, whereas if you did dumbbells at your side, you have zero tension at the bottom. And it's obviously at the top of the rep, there's almost no force at all. So it's very light at the top. You'll notice my end point is different. It's because I don't want to come up too high and take tension off the bicep, because then I'm resting. So even though it's almost like a lengthened partial in this movement is more effective than a full range of motion, which is, I think, confabulating people's idea where you see all over the internet, people are talking about how lengthened partials are better than full range of motion. For this exercise, that's most certainly true. On the previous exercise, because we're not using a dumbbell against gravity, we're using a cam on a machine, there was tension at the top, and therefore I think the full range of motion is better. But a dumbbell preacher curl, then yes, the lengthened partials are better than full range of motion. But on preacher machine, Full range of motion would be better because of the camber. Couldn't do it. You're like, I know my body. A lot of people who are less advanced than me won't have the knowledge and the wherewithal to be able to tell when they're at one rep in reserve or when they're at failure, and they might really struggle and grind shit out. That's how you get hurt. Notice I'm pushing the dumbbells away from me on the eccentric. I'm not just letting them come down. I'm making it harder on myself by pushing them away from me. You didn't really see that in the other views. That's why I shot this one with 2 views. All right, and I was done. And this is my favorite way to do hammer curl. It's almost like a hammer concentration curl. Now, if you notice, I'm adducting my arm kind of across my body so that my pecs engage the whole time. That way, otherwise, if I didn't do that, my elbow would go back as the dumbbell came forward, and it would actually use rear delt to help move it. I just did it right there on that rep. That time I did it too. My elbow went back a little bit, and that's making a little bit. I did it that time too. So I did it on a few reps. All right. So you guys got to see a walkthrough. I showed you basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets out of what would have been 9 sets. No, it was 9 sets of triceps. I showed you 3. And then I showed you 5 sets of biceps, but I did 8 sets of biceps. And then I did 3 sets of abs. The ab roller video I shot wouldn't upload. So there is that. Oh, and I showed you delts too. I showed you 3 sets of middle delts and 2 sets of rear delts, but I did 5 sets of middle delts and 4 sets of rear delts. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed sharing it with you. And if you have any technical questions on the training, ask them in the comments. I love training questions. I hate gear questions because I think gear questions are stupid, but training questions are really good. It's almost like the way that men approach steroids. It'd be like if you had a rusted out car that's falling apart and then you're spending all your money on vanity plates and spoilers and nitrous, but you're not actually spending money on replacing the rusted parts of your engine and your drive shaft and your axles with fresh pieces of metal. That the training is the car and the fuel you use is the food. And then the dice hanging from the rear view mirror and the spoiler and the neon lights on the bottom of the car is the steroids. And then all these dumb motherfuckers want to spend all their money on the neon and the dice and the spoilers and the nitrous, and they don't know how to drive, and the car sucks. And that's why I'd rather all of you, especially HRT people where there's nothing to HRT at all, you should be learning how to lift weights and not worry so much about which is better, this drug or that drug, because the doses you're using are so infinitesimally small. All the drugs are pretty much the same. All right, thanks. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Fusion Regenerative Therapies, where I am the Director of Human Performance. This is the practice in which I practice medicine. We will be able to order you blood work and read your blood work and help you with therapy as needed based upon the results of your blood work. Please click the link to get a consult with me, and I can help you optimize your performance. Thank you.